All right, what's going on, everybody? Christopher Inks with TexasWest Capital, and we're doing a special show here. I've got a friend of mine, Tim Warren from Investing Broz. He's going to be on, and we're gonna introduce you to him. We're gonna get you to let him know, learn a little bit about him, the way in which he trades, and really we're gonna kind of move into charts and see what he's thinking in terms of Bitcoin and other cryptos and whatnot, alts especially. He's made some pretty good calls. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring him up on here right now. And then I want to talk about something real quick that we did together, I think probably a bit over a year ago. So how are you doing, Mr. Warren?
I'm doing great, Chris. Great to be on with you. And it's good to see you again. It's been a while since we gotten to catch up and talk crypto. So I'm excited.
Yeah, man. Yeah. In fact, that's what I was going to talk about. There was one of the last times we were talking. You and I both, we talked about the idea that Bitcoin dominance was going to, run up through 60%. And we were both like, yeah, that is what we expect. And I remember getting a little bit of hate back then about that. I'm sure you did as well.
I mean, yeah. So I think Ben Cowan owns the crown for the longest. Supposedly, I heard someone say he was talking about it in 2021. Like he was already in, we're in a bull market. We're still going up. And he's already talking about where Bitcoin dominance is going to be in the next bear market or the next bull market. And so, I think he wins the case. But I was talking about it. I think I first brought this concept up of a 60% Bitcoin dominance around March of 2023. I don't remember the exact timeline that you and I discussed it. But I remember by several people that I really love and respect, I know personally, they thought I was crazy about it. Of course, the internet, you can say anything. You can say the sky is blue and somebody's going to say you're crazy. Yeah. But yeah, a lot of people saying they would never happen. Bitcoin dominance would never get that high. This is a different cycle. And sure enough, there we go. It looks like we topped out about 61% or so. So I could have been a little higher on my prediction.
Yeah, well, and I'll be honest with you. I think we still got a little bit further upside myself. I think we still got a bit further to go here. And so, again, my base case with all this, and especially once the ETFs got in there, was this idea that, once we saw the ETFs come in, now we've got a whole separate set of money that's going to start flowing in. And the idea was, okay, we weren't going to, we'd still see crypto bros kind of, cycling in and out as we've always done, right?
Yeah.
But what that would generally expect to lead to would be that Bitcoin would continue to rally alongside with alts. It wouldn't be this thing where alts only rallied when Bitcoin kind of pulled back. And we've kind of seen that a bit here, right? Because, up until just recently, everybody's, when's alt season? When's that going to be in? And I know you've had to field that question many a time this year. But if we look at it, we've had sectors which have just gone completely batshit crazy,
right,
with their rallying and whatnot. And, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a great thing, but it throws a lot of people off. If you wait for the Bitcoin to crash or whatever, to pull back with some big, huge crash before, alts go up, I think you get stuck on the sidelines.
Yeah, I'll say this. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it. I have told our audience over Investing Broz, I do think the Bitcoin dominance top is in. That being said, if we reclaim, we got very close to it the other day. If we reclaim on TradingView 58% dominance, some people look at like CoinMarketCap or something else, and the numbers are a little skewed. But on TradingView, if you look at BTC.D, if we get back above 58%, then I'll probably say, all right, I was a little too hasty, a little too quick to call alt season. But with the plummet we've had, the spike in volume that came towards the end there, the timeline of the fact that the 4-year cycle, if you really study the 4-year cycle, which, by the way, I think the 4-year cycle is coming to a close. I think we possibly have an extended bull market this cycle. We might discuss some of that later in the show. Yeah. But it's not actually 4 years. Like, it's not like 4 12-month calendars. It's actually like 3 years, 10 and a half months, right? Yeah. So we had a altcoin cycle start in February of 2017. Then we had an altcoin season start January of 2021. 2020. Yeah, January of 2021. And so I told people, don't be surprised if alt season, I made this call, I think, in September. I said, don't be surprised if altcoin season actually started early December Well, when did Bitcoin dominance end up peaking out? It actually peaked out in the last week of November. And so it's one of those things that I'm looking at it and I'm saying, this is if the 4-year cycle is still intact at the moment and hasn't broken yet, it actually would make sense that it happened now. As far as going higher, I think even though Bitcoin has extra attention in this cycle that we haven't had in past ones with the ETFs and with institutions, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Institutions will be way more likely to dip their toes in Bitcoin with volatility. I think we're a ways away. I mean, Microsoft just voted, what was it, like 99.5% said no to Bitcoin. Imagine what they're going to say to Cardano or Chainlink or Solana or something. They're going to go, when they do go, they'll go Bitcoin first, but there's still going to be a lot of retail. Like as we get more institutions, more retail will pile in. Whales will understand the days of Bitcoin 10xing in a bull market are finished. The days of Bitcoin having amazing returns are finished. Why? Because it's being adopted. The market cap's just so crazy high. I'm going to watch some of the former Bitcoin whales start to look at some of these other altcoins that they still can get their 10x's, their 12x's, their 20x's in. And so I still think alts go up. I think 60% was a good cap for Bitcoin dominance. That being said, I think there's some people who think that the Bitcoin dominance is going to plummet and altcoins are going to take over. I've put my floor, instead of saying we're going to keep going up, I put my floor between about 50 to 45%. Okay. I think that's the lowest we'll get. I think Bitcoin, because of the ETFs, because of the institutional adoption, will not go back down towards 40 to 35 like we've seen in the last two bear markets. That's kind of where I'm sitting at the moment. But again, I'm sure we're gonna get into the charts. We're gonna get into a lot of sentiment and macroeconomics discussions here. So I'll let you take it back over and you ask me whatever you want. I'm here. It's your show. You tell us where you want to go.
All right. Well, yeah, man. So, no, I think it's great, and definitely makes a lot of sense. Of course, for me, again, just kind of go back to mine is this idea that, the money that's flowing into the ETFs is really where I'm kind of looking at it. It's not the money that just, so like what we've always done with cycles is we buy spot, right, and we do that and we cycle out again. Once Bitcoin hits the top, we cycle out into, the other caps, we kind of run through them to get the micro caps and then back in. And then it just, it's this idea that we've got so much money flowing into these ETFs right now that, and for people that aren't really, there's still a lot of people really that don't seem to understand ETFs. Yeah. It's not paper Bitcoin, folks. It is real Bitcoin. Bitcoin has to be bought. Now, they've got a T+1 settlement date. So, it may take a day to settle for them to buy what is coming in, because that's just the way ETFs work. Prior to just recently, a few months back, it was T+3 on a lot of them, but now they're all T+1. So, we've got all that money comes in there, and it's not going to like, oh my God, it's here, so we're going to get out of here and then put it into, at least not yet, some other meme coin ETF or something, right? Coming in. So, that's kind of my basis for it. So we'll see what happens here. I mean, hell, if where we're at's the top, I mean, that's a heck of a run from where we were talking about it way back down. So, I'm excited about that. Let's start off here, though, when we're talking about this, since, again, you like me, you're a technical trader. You look at the charts. When you're looking at the charts and how you're trading, what are what are like the most reliable chart patterns that you kind of use to look at and go, man, if this pattern comes up on here, then I am really feeling like, this thing is going to happen, whatever it is that you're looking at.
Yeah. So, I normally do, crypto stuff. I know you've been trading now for over 30 years. So you traded way before crypto was a thing. Even though I don't do it often, I will dabble sometimes in the stock market and look at some stuff there. People will ask, hey, what do you think about this? Stock, what do you think about Tesla right now? What do you think about Microsoft? And formations I've found are way more reliable in the very high volume markets like the stock market. And especially the larger it is, the better. And so you can get away with a good amount of formations on Bitcoin. I have found, though, people who try to find short time frame patterns like a cup and handle or an inverse head and shoulders, those have been the ones that seem to let you down more frequently. Not always. It's always good to be aware, because other traders are going to look at that and trade that way. But for me, I'm a big fan of simple, like let's look for wedges. Let's look for rising channels, falling channels, symmetrical triangles. I still think I've seen several bull flags, bull pennants, bear flags, bear pennants play out well. But I'll tell you this, that's the formation side of it. I was actually talking with our VIP trading group today. So we have a Discord with specialized traders. And I was telling them, I really am an oscillator guy. I used to call myself like Tim Divergence or something. Divergence trading on oscillators is not perfect. Sometimes you see like a double divergence or a triple. So sometimes you can get, a little early on your buy or your sell. But I've noticed, especially in crypto, rarely do you see major reversals on the micro or the macro without some form of oscillator divergence. So if you're going to ask me, like when Tim trades, and you ask anyone in my VIP group, what is the most common strategy Tim is using? It has to do with oscillators. And that tells me when to buy. Then I'll use some basic levels of support and resistance on trend lines. I'll use order blocks and different things to find my take profit. But it's really hard to know for certain when the momentum's shifted or not if the oscillators aren't communicating a shift in dynamics. So I would say if I had one way, if I could only trade with one thing, oscillators would be my buy and sell signals. Absolutely.
All right. So obviously my next question has to be, there's so many different oscillators out there. Yeah. What do you find works the best for you? Which one do you look at and you go, man, when I'm looking at it, just makes sense to me, and I have my most success with this particular one?
Yeah, so I used to be a lot of RSI. I always love to see what the MACD is doing. Stochastics RSI, it's like, hey, that's good from time to time. It's just so bouncy, right? It can throw you off just of how bouncy it is. Yeah. But RSI was my go-to. So RSI divergence was my go-to buying and selling signal. Then, when I partnered with Luxalgo, the Luxalgo premium oscillator, I think they call it the oscillator matrix. Yeah. I don't think this strategy was developed before I found it. I'll show you it, give you an insight. I think I created this strategy. I don't think anyone else was doing it before I was doing it. However, several people are now doing it later. I don't know if they're training it or they just see me do it, but I found a strategy that, especially under normal circumstances, this buy signal or sell signal, I found with back testing to be 90% correct about telling you when to buy and when to sell. Wow. Now, you need to still choose your stop loss correctly. You need to choose your take profits correctly. That all comes with extra analysis. But if you're just looking for, hey, when should I be buying? When should I be selling? I've never found anything that was as high as 90%. So when I found this and stumbled on this strategy, it was awesome. And we can go look at it, and I'll show briefly what it is if you want to share my screen.
Yeah, let me go pop it up there.
Right. So I'm just looking at a Bitcoin chart at the moment, but I want to kind of zoom in. This is the Luxalgo oscillator matrix. And so again, I say under normal conditions, during heavy bullish movements, the percentage of 90% is going to drop. During heavy bearish movements, it's going to drop. So in the major swings, things can get a little dicey. But especially when you're in consolidation, which we have been here more recently, this has been a killer indicator. And what I'm looking for, there's a lot of dynamics here you'll see with this oscillator. Some people are used to features of this, but you'll have reversal indicators up top. So like a red dot or a red triangle. On the bottom, you'll have like a green dot or a green triangle, which the green triangle hasn't flashed in the hourly chart for Bitcoin since December 2nd. But those are, I call those reversal indicators, right? Doesn't mean something's gonna reverse. It's like it flashes because it's registering, hey, this time frame of this asset, we're overextended and a reversal should come soon, right? But you don't sell just because you see one of those. You have to wait. There's what I call the trifecta of what has to happen. So you want to see a reversal pattern. You also want to see on the oscillator itself. This oscillator mimics the RSI. It's not tit for tat, but you're going to see, if you compare it with an RSI, very similar movements in how it functions. So I call that the oscillator, the RSI of this indicator. You want to see, let's say we're going for a sell signal here. So you want to see a red reversal. You want to see a gray dot or bearish momentum on the oscillator. So it's flipped from being positive momentum to negative momentum. But that's not the buy signal either. We got two positives there, but we could still climb a little bit. Now the third one, you'll see this red and green colors here, just waving all over the place. This is actually tracking money flow. Is more money piling in or is more money leaving? And what I want to see if I'm going to enter a sell signal is I'll see the reversals, the bearish momentums, and then I want to see negative money flow. Doesn't have to be red. I don't need to change color. I just need to see it trending to the downside. And once this triggers, this right here would have triggered a sell signal for me. A drop below that little thin green trend line. That now all of a sudden I have a red reversal, bearish momentum, and negative money flow all within a tight space. If I go back over, if I would have entered a short on this blue line, while I would have had to wait for a little bit, we had a little higher moves. We're now starting to see the downward action come out of that. I could go back and show a lot more. It's the exact opposite. If you were looking at the bull side of it, if you're looking for a buy signal, you want to see green reversal, bullish momentum, positive money flow. Like this would have been a buy signal right in here. And if you look at the chart, that would have had you buy right in here. So you have to wait for it, but it rallies back to the upside. So again, there's some chances, there's some times where I've seen it like a bearish signal and then the price just keeps going up and it's like, okay, I don't care where your stop loss would have been. You would have gotten stopped out. Yeah. But back testing, and I if anyone gets Luxalgo and chooses to use it, back test it yourself. Don't even take my word for it. Back test that strategy with the trifecta and tell me how many times it did not end up being a good suggested trade. The finishing part of that, if you have Luxalgo, my favorite way to trade it is the smart trail. If anyone's used to the smart trails, that's this red cloud if it's above us, the blue cloud below us. If I get a sell signal, I'm looking for a move back to the blue cloud. If I get a buy signal, I'm looking for a move back up to the red cloud. That's my main trading strategy I use more than anything else. And it's all really based on, again, the Luxalgo premium oscillator. It is one you have to pay for. But it has changed the way I trade. It has made me a much more successful trader ever since I found it.
Man, I love that. And I love what you say. You're like, listen, it's not going to be 100% correct all the time, because that's something that I talk about often, because I still remember 30 years ago getting in and thinking I had to find the perfect, the perfect way to trade in which, I was always going to be 100% correct.
Right.
And it wasn't until I, I probably cried a little bit at some point, years of losing money there at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I finally kind of sat down and said, all right, well, obviously it doesn't seem like anything's going to be perfect all the time. So, you got to figure out, well, what is it? Well, the only thing we really control then is our risk management. And so as long as we've got, really good, strong risk management, it's okay. You go in there and then you just focus on whatever the system is that you're using, right? I see too many traders, and maybe you've seen this as well. I'm sure you have, because you talk to a lot of traders as well. But they come in and they're, when they're trading, right, they're looking for not only for, as perfect as they can get, but they're just looking for the things that we can't get as traders, right? Yeah. They're looking for the perfection. Risk management is boring. It's not sexy. Base hits are boring. They're not sexy. I want the home runs all the time. Yeah. I think you probably come up with that quite a bit as well, right?
Oh yeah. I would say, the temptation of every new trader is to try to hit the home run right off the bat. It is to try to get a trade. It happens too. One of our pro traders in our group, I'll confess, I think he's a better trader than I am. I was so glad when he said he wanted to be a part of our community. He'll post trades all the time that it's like plus 2,000%, plus 1,000, and he's been doing it for a while. He's very good. But I asked him, I was like, how often are you getting ones like this? Like, how many trades does it take you to get a trade like that? He's like, oh yeah, that's probably 1 out of 20 trades. Yeah. But the problem is some people will see that. And then they'll go and say, well, I need to trade that same level. And they end up putting themselves in a position, whether it be leverage or whether it's just waiting too long for things to happen, they end up getting crushed because they're trying to hit the home run. And it's sometimes you got to remind people, hey, learning and training is a part of the process. Being okay with the 10%, 20%, 30% wins, that's good. I mean, my strategy, I'm usually somewhere in the world of winning 50 to 100% with my trades, because I have this strategy where I only ever risk 30% of my trade. And I like to have at least 2-to-1.
Yeah.
But I'd like, if I could, to get a 3-to-1 ratio. So that means if I'm risking 30%, I'm really hoping to make somewhere between 60 to 90. Sometimes I go lower than that. I only go like 10% risking, but then I'm only going to gain 20 to 30%. That's kind of my normal range. Too many people try to go for, let me get a 75x on here. Let me get a 100x on here and turn this into some real money real fast. And I'll tell you the other thing, Chris, I don't know if this has ever happened to somebody in your community. It didn't happen to me when I first started. I don't know about you, but there was one guy, and I told him this was the worst thing that could have ever happened to him. His first trade ever.
Yeah, I know
He caught a wave.
Yep.
He went like 100x on it. He was right, and it kept going. His first trade ever, he gained like 5,000% in his first trade. Now, think about this. He was trading with a decent amount of money. I think it was like $20,000. He used all of that portfolio. He used all 20,000 in that trade. So he made a lot of money, right? A lot of you are hearing that. You're like, yeah, this dude, like, he made hundreds of thousands of money. Yes, he made $100,000 in one trade. Perfect. You know what he did? He turned around, did it again. And what's crazy, Chris, is he got successful in that trade too. That was another like 1,000 per game. This dude made a boatload of money in the first two trades, thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Third trade got wrecked, lost every single penny. Why? Because he did not understand risk management. He did not understand the concept of luck versus skill. Lucky people can make a lot of money, but if you want to be lucky, go to Vegas. Don't trade. Trading requires discipline, rules. It does not mean you buy the bottom and sell the top. That's the other one. Is the word perfection should be removed from a trader's vocabulary, because perfection is what will ruin you. Good is the right way to think about it. Get good entries and good exits with good stop losses and good risk management. Chasing perfection is what I think discourages a lot of people from trading after a couple of months. They'll start trading and say, this isn't for me, I'm done. And the reason why is because they couldn't stop chasing perfection. So that's what I've noticed. I don't know if you have any stories like that, Chris, or heard anything like that. But.
No. And it's funny you say it, because it's something that I say so often, because I've seen it so many times over 30 years, and tens of thousands of traders that I've talked to and I've known through that time. And I've known some really, really great ones, and I've known some really bad ones. Most of them have been really bad because, we all are that way, right? We all come in thinking the same thing. We all come in thinking it's easy. Mm-hmm. We're going to make money. We're buying that island in our head already, with our $100 that we're going to jump into the market with. And I'm not here trying to disparage anybody who only has $100 to put in the market. That's fine, but you have to be real. You have to be real. You have to be realistic with where you're at.
Yeah.
If you've got $100, you're not going to turn into $1 million overnight. It's just not going to happen. And along with what you're saying there, I think, because I started obviously long before social media was a thing, right? And so the problem with social media is you'll have a lot of accounts on here, and a lot of times they're lying about it, but they'll be like, oh, look, I turned $1,000 into $30 million in the last 3 months.
Right.
And it's even worse than what you said, because it's like what you said on steroids, and people start thinking, oh my God, I can do that. Well, the odds are you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so like you said, like you're saying, that the risk management becomes really important, because the only thing you can control is how much you lose, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the only, we can look at it and we go, man, listen, everything in our system is saying to buy right now. Yeah. And there's no guarantee, it's going to go there. There's no guarantee if it does that it's going to hit our target. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've had a lot of those stories throughout the years. And I always say, like you said, it's the absolute worst thing that can happen to a trader. You come in and even if it's not even if it's just you, if you come in, especially with social media, and you find somebody and they post something and you go into that trade and you make money on that first trade, all of a sudden you think, oh my God, this person knows exactly what to do. Yeah. I'm going to do exactly what they say all the time. And then, like you said, you end up getting burned on that. Here's the thing. With I think the hardest thing and I think you could probably back me up on this. One of the hardest things we do in teaching people how to trade is teaching them to trade, but then understanding that they don't have all the background in the risk management and the time in seat, watching the charts or whatever, to understand what to do outside of the buy here or whatnot. You know, how do you position? Like you said, that guy went in and was full on the entire account in there, you know, full position, everything in there. You know, and that's an unfortunate thing, because a lot of what people are teaching out there does work. But you have to understand what they're doing, and you have to understand what kind of risk management they're using as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that you brought that up, man, because that is something I talk about all the time, and I try to warn new traders about all the time, because really there is nothing new in trading. I really believe there's not. It's the same thing over and over, and every cycle of every market, you get the same new type of trader in. That was the same way you were, the same way I was when we first came in, right?
Well, I mean, you got to think about it, Chris. Like every single cycle, let's just even say cycles, right? We're not even going to say year. Every single cycle, you'll get millions of new. Let's just say 1 million. 1 million new traders come in, and they all say, "I'm going to learn how to do this and do it very, very well." Well, if you stick to it through the failure and everything else, one cycle, you can really learn a lot in one cycle.
Yeah.
The problem is, how many of that 1 million make it to the next cycle? And then the concept is, well, if another million is going to come in that cycle and less than 10% of the first one, so we're really talking about like maybe 100,000 successful people now, but all of a sudden another million come in, you know, it's this never ending thing of like, why does trading work? Why does technical analysis work? Well, it's about reading the psychology of the market, but then also understanding when trading happens, when one person buys, somebody else is selling. And when someone else sells, someone's buying. Well, for me to make money and make a good trade, somebody else has to be a sucker. Somebody else has to be the idiot that buys my top and then sells me their bottom, right? So that's how trading happens. It's because you have this new wave of dumb traders that come in every single time. If everyone in the world was brilliant at trading, if everyone had 30 years of experience, markets wouldn't move very much.
Right.
because you would all have the same exact concept of when do I buy, when do I sell, and then nothing would ever happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is the sad reality. If anyone's listening to this and you're newer to trading, you found good people here, right? You found Chris. If you come over to Investing Broz, you found me. You're going to lose some. That's going to happen. It's almost like a rite of passage. You are the new dumb money that are going to be exit liquidity or entry liquidity for experienced traders. But if you stick to it and you learn the disciplines and you go through the emotional roller coasters of trading, you know, you will not live until you have set up an amazing trade. You have the I say you should eliminate the word perfect, but you have the perfect setup. You have a great entry. You have a great take profit. Everything works, but the problem is one singular wick on the 5-minute candle shoots through your stop loss and then goes back up. You have to go through a couple of those before you can really call yourself a real trader, because that is the world we live in. And you have to, as Chris said, you have to understand proper risk management. If you have $20,000 to trade, you do not use all $20,000 in one trade. And even let's say you use a third of that. Let's say you go to $6,000 per trade. You don't ever risk all of that 6,000% either. You have to develop a tried and true practice, well thought out, disciplined trading strategy and trading rules. And then you have to listen to those rules. You can't violate them. You stick to them. And after years and years and years, you will become an effective and profitable trader who enjoys doing it in the process.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's probably the perfect thing there. Enjoys doing it.
Yeah.
Because nobody enjoys losing.
No.
You know, my first few years, I didn't enjoy losing money consistently, and I lost a lot of money, and it was tough. You know, it was tough. I really had to get to that point where I sat down with myself one day and I said, listen, if I don't start taking this seriously, because I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing it seriously, but really I wasn't. And most of us, we tend to lie to ourselves, not just in trading, but in life, right?
Right.
We lie to ourselves. And that's what a lot of us, especially in trading, we do. We like, oh yeah, I'm taking it seriously, but we're not really studying it. We're not really putting in the effort, right? I like to tell people, listen, when you say you're taking it seriously, are you taking it seriously like, well, back in the day when, you know, when we had people like Michael Irvin playing football and whatnot, I'd be like, are you taking it seriously like Michael Irvin, you know, paying for his coaches, going out every day, practicing, you know, watching reviews of what he did, figure out what he did wrong, going back in that. Are you doing stuff like that? And the reality of it is almost nobody is.
Yeah.
So really, it's not that hard to become a winner in trading. You just have to do the things that nobody else is really doing out there.
Chris, a coach in high school, my football coach of mine in high school said this to me, and I remember it changing my perspective on a lot of things. And he told me, he's like, you will always do your top priority. Like, what are your priorities in life?
Yeah.
I guarantee you will always tell me with your life what your top priorities are. In football, my top priority was to, bench 300 pounds, but I'm not in the gym. Clearly, comfort is a higher priority to me than benching 300 pounds. I can put on a piece of paper what my priorities are, but you will always do what you want to do. And sometimes discipline is about, you say, I got my list of papers, my priorities. I have my rules. I have my list of everything. And then discipline is what comes in to make sure you keep those priorities the same. But in this world, like what you said, it's not that hard to become a good trader if you're willing to trade time, effort, comfort, pleasure. That's the big thing that people need to understand is, like, if you think that you're just going to waltz into trading and it's going to be easy for you, nothing in life that comes easy is actually valuable. And trading, I've never heard anyone who trading just comes naturally and easy to. You have to get your bumps and bruises. You have to go through things. But if you're willing to trade your time, your effort, and your entertainment and study and practice and go through the reps, you will become a successful trader. I tell people all the time, Chris, I don't know you as well as I would love to know you in the future. I don't know what your intelligence comes from. I would like to think of myself as being a semi-intelligent person, but I'm by no means in the higher echelon of IQ in this world, right? I was a football player. My whole life, I thought I was going to go play college football, go into maybe football coaching. I wanted to be a strength conditioning coach, be in the weight room with people. And I stumbled into this world of crypto through a friend of mine. And I just kind of had that thought. I was like, well, if I'm going to work for this company, I might as well learn. And so I took months of weekends and nights studying this stuff. And it kind of just proved to me, like, hey, I probably have an above average work ethic, but I do not have an above average intelligence. If I can learn how to trade and look at these charts and understand proper risk management and understand discipline movements, literally anybody can. The question is, how much do they want to do it?
I love it, man. Yeah, I love it. How much do you really want it? Are you really serious about it? Or are you just saying you're serious about it? Do you want to do it, or are you just saying you want to do it so you can feel good about yourself and other, maybe show off to other people? Yeah. No, I think, and we're going to sit here and say this, and I guarantee there's going to be a lot of people that are going to listen to this. And we kind of chuckle a little bit because we've been through this, we've already done our time through this, but they're going to get it and they're going to immediately defensive, immediately, oh yeah, no, I'm doing everything I can. I'm doing what I need to do.
Yeah.
But, again, it's the same thing when you're at work. I like to tell people, when you're trading, it's no different than any other thing that you do in your life, right? The things you do in trading that are required for you to be successful as a trader, discipline, focus, consistency, effort, patience, all those things. That's the same thing that you have to do with anything else. Relationships, the position at a job, running a company, learning any other skill set, learning how to play the guitar or the drums, or learning how to paint or something, right? Everything requires the same basic things. And so again, I love what your coach said there. He's just like, listen, you can say you're going to do it, but are you showing me that you're doing it? We can say things all day long. So with that in mind, I guess, let's kind of shift here a little bit. So obviously, we kind of talked about a little bit here, Bitcoin a little bit, but what are your thoughts right now on the current state of the Bitcoin market and of the altcoin market? Where are you kind of sitting right now in terms of where do you think we're at overall? Where do you think we're headed? Obviously the big thought right now is we've got another year into it and then we'll finish it up before the bear market. What do you think?
Yeah. So just like I've taken a lot of heat, I took a lot of heat back in 2023 about the 60% dominance. I've taken some heat recently with a take that I have, and it we'll have to wait. We'll find out if I'm wrong or if I'm right. It's going to take a long time to figure it out. But, I have a theory right now that makes a lot of sense to me that this is going to be the end of the 4-year cycle. I think I mentioned that earlier, that the 4-year cycle is still on track right now, right? So everything's kind of moving along. It's really easy to play. But people who are waiting for the top to happen around September, October of 2025, this is my problem with the 4-year cycle theory staying intact. And I've said this a lot of different places, but I'll share it with your community. So let's turn on our logical thinking brain about what's a pattern and what can be repeated, because there's no 4-year cycle in the stock market, right? You can have there's semi cycles, but even that, if you study cycles in the stock market, it's very crazy up and down. It's not consistent. There's nothing as clean cut as a 4-year cycle. So that whole concept in the world of trading is new. It's based off of the halving event that happens every 4 years. And ultimately, within a duration of time, we get to the next halving, people get bearish. It tops out. We start to correct until the halving event. We start to rally a little bit beforehand. We explode right after. It's all because that halving event that happened, of course, this year in 2024, it happened back in 2020, 2016, and 2012, significantly limited, halved the supply of new Bitcoin being created. In the world of economics, when you have a dramatic decrease in supply, unless you match that dramatic decrease in supply with a decrease in demand, then price is going to skyrocket. It's going to shoot up. So the 4-year cycle, and when we cooled off and when we rallied, had to do with studying that halving cycle. How far are we away from it? When is it a good time to sell off and then regroup before it happens for a big bull market? 2024 was the last significant halving event. The next one that happens in 2028 is going to happen, but the difference in supply is going to be so minimal, it will not have a major impact on price. So that's reason one that I think the 4-year cycle might be over. This was the last significant slash in halving. You got to think about, we have about 1.5 million coins left of 21 million.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a lot of Bitcoin left, and it's going to take us all the way to 100. I think it's 20,000 or 2125.
Yeah.
It's another 100 years. We will not be alive to see the last Bitcoin mined. Our children might not be alive to see the last Bitcoin mined, right? So it's going to dramatically stop being so important.
Yeah. That's
my first argument about that thought. The next one is, what is a pattern? What is a consistency? So when it happened, the coin was created in 2009, had the first major top in 2013, and we had a bear market happen in 2013. That just happened, right? There was a 4-year difference. That's all. Nothing special. Don't think about it too much. It just happened. Then another 4 years later, 2017, we top out again in a 3-year, 11-month cycle, give or take. Well, that's a coincidence, Chris. That there's no pattern there. You can't say a pattern just because something's happened twice.
Yeah.
It's a coincidence. 2021, our third 4-year cycle, now we have 3 of them, okay? Now we have a pattern. But what is something that happens in the world of trading and the world of crypto more than anything else is that the minute you think you understand what actually is going to happen, they change the game on you. The minute that retail thinks that they have the perfect code as to when to buy and when to sell, that's when they will get wrecked. So now in 2020, there were people out there saying, hey, look for a 4-year cycle, but it wasn't considered a major pattern because at that point it had only been a coincidence. Now that we have an established pattern, I believe that retail, the regular day person, is going to think September, October 2025 is the time to sell. I think that's the perfect reason why whales and institutions will not let that be the top. I think in reality, the other thing to think about is, Bitcoin, there's only 21 million that will ever exist. Yep. In our lifetime, we'll never see more than 20 million, really, a little bit higher than 20 million. There's an estimation that only 5 million tokens are really up for grab, and that was earlier this year. There's a very real chance there's less than that.
Yeah.
These new institutions coming in, the BlackRocks, the Fidelities, the governments, we now have American government saying we're going to create a reserve stockpile. Yep. Russia and China are talking about adding. Where are these coins going to come from? If nobody's going to sell it to them, how can they get a hold of them?
Yeah.
Unless we convinced a large majority of retail investors this is the time to sell. How are we going to get these people to sell their coins to these governments, to these institutions, to get them to go up? I can't think of a better excuse than to convince all of retail that the 4-year cycle pattern is still intact and sell your coins in September. We might even see a 20, 30% fallback. But that'll be the next greatest opportunity to actually pick up coins in bulk that governments and institutions will ever see. I think there will be a local top at the end of the 4-year cycle, but then by December, we're rallying again, potentially hitting new all-time highs because governments and institutions bought up the dip. The other thing is, with the 4-year cycle, with the halving event not being significant anymore, I think we're going to go into a time where we're really asking the questions about the economy. It was kind of coincidental that the end of 2021, early 2022 was the end of the 4-year cycle. And also the economy started to experience problems. We realized inflation was way out of control. They started raising interest rates. There's a lot of problems happening, right? That's kind of coincidental. It's kind of nice. I think the future of crypto cycles, there will be local tops. There'll be pullbacks. There'll still be volatility. But it's really going to be the question is when is the economy in trouble? When will the stock market be in trouble? When will Bitcoin or any crypto be so overpriced and the economy's in the tank or about to be in the tank to extend a long-term bear market? I don't think that happens in 2025. Donald Trump is the new president of the United States. He doesn't take office until January, but he's going to take office. Do we really think within the first year of his presidency, he's going to allow the economy to crumble like that? Yeah. I don't think so. And you can say that inflation is bad right now, despite the numbers don't say it. You can say unemployment's bad right now, even though the numbers don't say it. I'm in the boat of saying inflation and unemployment is bad. But I also understand data is what drives markets, not my personal opinion. Yeah. And right now, there are so many tools that the Fed and the government and Donald Trump can use to hold off a major recession. I don't think we see a bear market until a major recession. And I don't think that will happen until probably 2027 at the earliest, but maybe even after that. So I'm dealing with all these new outside thoughts, and I'm saying, you know what? I know it's popular. I know the mainstream says, 4-year cycle's intact. 4-year cycle's going to happen September, October. Sell your crypto. We're going to have another, 80% pullback. He's going to have another year-long bear market. And I'm just sitting here saying, I think that's a bear trap. I think the 4-year cycle is going to bear trap a lot of retail investors into a long-term move. They're going to sell and take profit. I think Bitcoin's going to be in the world of $220,000, $250,000. That's going to be great profit. Oh, yeah. But then it's going to pull back to like 175, 180. You're going to think you're genius, and then it's going to take off to 500,000 without you. And you missed out on that part of the pump because you were convinced the bear market was here. That's kind of where I'm sitting at the moment with my long-term sentiment. I know there's a lot in there, but yeah, I don't want to just say, it's going to extend and not give anyone a rational reason as to why it would extend.
No, I definitely appreciate that. And man, you're saying a lot along the lines of what I've been saying, though I didn't focus so much on the 4-year on that. But I've been talking for, last few years here. I got a lot of questions on my Friday show that I do where people would ask, well, everybody's talking about super cycle and whatnot. And I said, well, I said, there's the rub, right? We've got these technological advances coming in and technology is deflationary. But do we hit, and now especially, now I can add on to that, especially with Trump coming in and being so pro, technology. And so he says, anti, we'll see what happens when he gets in. But, right now he says, we'll take him at his word. He says, anti-strong government regulation. So, I mean, it really looks like we could enter into this golden age of technology, this golden age of technological advance. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, that brings up, like you said, the 2027, 2028, potentially, extending this bull run into that. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the same thing I've said multiple times over the last few years is, well, the thought is, okay, we'll be done here in 2025, but will we really? Because I can see the possibility, and this was even before the ETFs, came in, where I said, I can see this possibility where we do kind of hit this technological golden age thing where we're going on for a few more years at least. Mm-hmm. And now we've got Trump coming in. Now we've got the ETFs coming in. Now, as you said, we've got, Trump says, the U.S. to do a strategic reserve, Russia out there saying it. We've had multiple states. Texas just filed the bill. We'll see if they'll vote on it and whatnot. And so if you're out there and you're a company going, man, and now the rule changes, the accounting rule changes coming in January. And if you're that company out there, you go, okay, well, holy crud. first of all, we're really behind in doing
Yeah.
this. Second of all, everybody and their grandmother, in terms of nation states, basically the big ones are out there saying, we're going to do these strategic reserves.
Yeah.
And, all of a sudden, how do you have a big crash? How do you have a 70% or an 80% drawdown when the ones with the money and who can buy significantly, are there with this mentality? Oh my God, I want to buy. We need to buy. And retail goes, but retail controls a lot less. Really,
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things. So, I feel a lot with what you're saying here, man.
Well, I think I'll add one more, and this is a little shorter, but the other thing to think about is all the people saying that we're not going to have an amazing bull market, that we're going to have, or maybe potentially even an early top, and Bitcoin's not going anywhere near as high as anyone thinks. They're dealing with what I call 2021 trauma, Bitcoin 2021 trauma.
Yeah.
And that 2021 was a suppressed bull market. There's a saying that, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then they join you. And you think about it, nobody knew what Bitcoin was between 09 and 13, right? Nobody knew it. Well, that was ignoring. Then in 2013, 2014, I remember watching TV shows where they made their characters would joke about putting their money into Bitcoin. That's so funny. What a punchline, right? The first time I ever heard about Bitcoin was on 2015 or so when someone said a weed farmer told me it was the end of the world currency. And so he said, you got to put all your money into, and I was like, I'm not listening to a weed farmer who's trying to predict Revelation's end currency. But, it was laughable, right? 2021 was different. They fought us. Like the amount of suppression. I mean, China banning mining fields, kicking all the miners out of their country. Russia making it illegal to transact in crypto anyway. America talking about how it's an economic disaster and Elon Musk is selling it off. It was a nothing but nonstop. They're fighting it, and it was nonstop suppression. All those same people, not Peter Schiff, he's still fighting us, right? But
he's pretty
with the exception of him, those same people who are fudding and telling people to stay away from crypto, the U.S. government, these large business entities, the Chinese government, the Russian government, lots of countries in South America, they're buying it up. They're trying to bring it back home. This is the part where they join us. This is the last bull market was the bull market of suppression. The 2025 bull market / 2026, possibly 2027, is the bull market of adoption. And I've been saying this for a long time. People are living in trauma of 2021, but they're not opening their eyes to why was 2021 so bad? Why was it so suppressed? Why did we get nowhere close to $100,000 or even higher? It's because we were suppressed the whole time. And the same people who were using money to suppress us back then, they're using that money this time to go buy Bitcoin.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. Real quick, I want to move on to some charts here, see what's some altcoin charts. But before we do that, I do a Beards and Bitcoin show on Wednesdays with Andrew and Tillman. They own a company called the Arch Public. And Tillman, I think he has made probably the best analogy that I've ever heard. And the way he says it is, listen, he says, all right, so up until January of this year, up until those ETFs, all that growth with Bitcoin was all underground. It was all the roots. It was growing up here. But when we got the ETFs, all of a sudden it was Bitcoin breaking out through the ground now. And so, like you've been saying this entire session here, it's different now.
Yeah,
it's different now. And I think that's where most people, like you're saying, are going to miss it. If I could just kind of put it all into something really short with what you said, really condensed, it's basically that people are going to miss it because they're so focused on what's been up until now without recognizing how things have changed earlier this year. And so, man, I love what you're saying there. I love how you're putting it because, again, I think you're right in there with the ways kind of we're thinking about that as well.
Yeah.
But that said, we're kind of getting down on some time here. So I know you had some charts you wanted to share with us, some altcoin charts.
Sure.
That you might have.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I have any one individually, something I want people to be aware of. Let's start on Bitcoin. I've told my audience, be prepared. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Be prepared for a move to the downside. Earlier we were talking about the Bitcoin dominance chart. And even though we got a small bounce back here, zooming out, this Bitcoin dominance chart, we have not seen this big and this fast of a fall in Bitcoin dominance since all the way back here, June of 2022, right? But in the reality is we really haven't seen this type of move since the last altcoin season way back in January of 2021. And what this corresponded with, it's going to take me so long to go back, so people are going to have to take my word on this. Back test me on it if you doubt. Bitcoin was rallying at the end of 2020. January of 2021. Okay, you guys see this chart? This is January 2021 right here. This is the Bitcoin dominance chart. Bitcoin dominance fell off a cliff. Well, Bitcoin would retrace 30% while altcoins went to the upside.
Yeah.
Right? Then Bitcoin would regroup around February. It would then continue to go to the upside for the next couple of months, but the dominance kept falling. It was still alt season. Let's go back to the first alt season, because altcoins weren't a big deal back in, they weren't a big deal back in 2013. 2017 was a real emergence of altcoins.
The ICOs, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so where did alt season start? It started back at the end of February of 2017, where, again, you had this plummet in Bitcoin dominance. This time it was all the way up at 96%. It would plummet over the next couple of weeks. Bitcoin would fall like 30-something percent, 34%. Then altcoins would rally, and then Bitcoin would catch its breath, and Bitcoin would start to rally again. But the alts just kept going, and the Bitcoin dominance fell. I'm expecting now, as I zoom back over, for this Bitcoin dominance, as I said earlier in the show, to fall into this blue zone. High end 50%, low end 45%. But I'm expecting it to happen while Bitcoin is rallying. But Bitcoin really hasn't had its big drop yet. And while I'm not predicting 30% because we're more mature, I told people at 100K, don't be surprised if 100K is resistance, and we end up falling 15 to 20% down to 85, 80,000. Well, now we rallied up to 104, so I think 80,000 is kind of out of the realm, but I still think 15 to 20% pullback for Bitcoin before we continue is on the table. 15% would put us down here at 87, 20% would put us down here towards 83. I'm not saying we have to hit 20%. I still like 85,000. And one of the reasons why is because this is a chart that a lot of people will ignore, but traders love. This is liquidations. We had a specialized indicator actually created for us through Luxalgo to put these right on TradingView. I've never seen that done before, so I think it's really cool. But we have a big pocket of long liquidations that'll stop here on 91. That's going to be an interesting spot. But you also have this very interesting here on the daily chart, very interesting levels of liquidity right here around 85,000. If I were to go to a smaller time frame, you'll see it kind of bunched up more. A snowball effect really could start. If we drop here below 95K, you could start this snowball effect. Let me move this blue box out of the way so you can see this more clearly, where you just take out this liquidation, then this liquidation. And if you're used to trading liquidation charts, a lot of times, once you start liquidating all these longs, it's like the bulls can't catch their breath until it all pauses. Where does it pause? Down here towards 85, 84,000. So I'm not guaranteeing a pullback, but I am saying historically during this part of the cycle, we've seen 30% pullback, which this time I think more mature market, 15 to 20%. And I look at these liquidations and I say, if we get going, we could keep going all the way down to that 85,000 mark. And then we're kind of tracking right now. We've been put into this rising channel. Anyone who knows formation, we talked about this a little earlier, and this is a good formation on Bitcoin. These formations are consolidation. They're higher highs and higher lows, but it's consolidation where the bulls are losing a little bit of steam and they really want to correct to the downside. And the proper way to kind of predict this is to take an opening movement to a falling movement. I like this middle point right here because you don't really have a touch over here, but you move it over to a potential breakout spot. If we keep dropping here, and we do get down here towards 96, 95, and we lose this rising support level, guess where the breakout prediction is down here? Down into the 87 range, into my blue box. And so, again, I don't want to say I'm predicting with 100% certainty that 80, 86, 87, 85 is on the table. Or sorry, is going to happen, but it's on the table. It is something people need to be aware of. And traditionally, while this happens, while that pullback happens, not only does the Bitcoin dominance chart fall, but altcoins start to go up. And something I was talking about the other day with our channel, keep an eye, everybody, on Solana. Solana's been asleep here more recently. Let me look at that Solana chart real quickly. Solana's been asleep. It has been in a little bit of a falling channel. I don't know why that line's like that. It's been in its own falling channel, the exact opposite of Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's in a little rising channel. Solana's in a falling channel. The exact opposite is true here. These break to the upside. But when I look at the Solana over Bitcoin chart, it has also been a little bit asleep here. And if I zoom out here towards let's go daily chart here. if I zoom out here, you have a little bit of a bull pennant in play where Solana, that's been kind of sleeping here versus Bitcoin over the last couple of, almost a year, because it's been sleeping since December. This could explode and Solana could start to take a big move on Bitcoin. This would take a big chunk out of their dominance. But this kind of makes sense. We're watching. Let's look at some others. Solana's the one I'm kind of most excited about on the Bitcoin chart. So Sol over Bitcoin. But take a look at ETH over Bitcoin. We're talking about years. The top of this back in August 2022, we have been treading to the downside. Yeah. But all of a sudden, we got some bullish divergence in play. We're starting to pick up some momentum here on ETH over Bitcoin. It's about time ETH takes off. If you look at Cardano, we still need to set higher highs here. But again, we've been falling since September of 2021. We're finally picking up some real momentum here on Cardano over Bitcoin. XRP, I don't even need to, you guys probably would have known that already. XRP is picking up some stuff, but we're watching alts over Bitcoin charts finally get bullish again after years of being bearish. And that's what I'm watching right now to say that I believe altcoins happening. That's the explanation of this downward trajectory on the Bitcoin dominance chart, but the details are very important. And that's why I'm looking at and saying, I'm not saying that alts can't fall a little bit more because some of them had nice runs and overextended. Guess what didn't, though? Solana did not have a nice run yet and is overextended. Solana is ready to buy up. I think there's a lot of experienced, smart money traders looking at this Solana chart and saying, oh, we're oversold. Oh, it's time for a good Solana. I mean, unless you think Solana's dead, unless you think Solana's fundamentals are terrible, go study the fundamentals. You're going to find out the answer to that is no. You look at this chart versus some of these other charts like the ADA chart and like the XRP chart and definitely like the Bitcoin chart. And you say, Solana's not looking that bad right now. It's looking very juicy opportunity compared to the rest of the space. And that could be the next big catalyst. I mean, we saw Solana lead the first leg of the rally back in end of 2023. I wouldn't be surprised if it is the big leader to start off this altcoin season as well.
I definitely don't think people would hate that. I think there's still a lot of people out here really liking Solana. They didn't like it when I said to buy it around $9.
Yeah, that's what a terrible decision there, Chris.
Gosh, man, that's I had a few who ended up buying it a bit higher, $13, $15. So, and they've pretty much held, which has been great. But man,
Chris, I think
things you look back, you go, man, if only I had done that at that time with something,
I think you and I have a lot of similarities on these things like this, but tell me if you're the same way. When you look back, especially recently, of your best calls, right? None of us get everything 100% right, but the ones that you said that you predicted that ended up being right, did the populace opinion agree or disagree with you?
No. You know what it is? You can't call the big ones when people are excited about it.
Yeah.
It's usually when they're most upset about it, especially when we're talking about bottoms. And it's absolutely crazy. And then, unfortunately, people get a bit bent out of shape when that happens, and they kind of get a bit frustrated. And then that just forces them to continue with their negative feeling that they have about that particular thing. And again, that emotion jumps in there and keeps them from making more money that they could make. Because here's the thing: you didn't have to get it at 9. You could have waited for the rally up to 15 and the pullback there for a few bucks. Yeah, you got a decent pullback there. You could have said, "Hey, you know what? Listen, I think I'm going to jump in here." Yeah. And it's tough though, right? It's tough as a trader. I always say trading is simple. It's not easy. It's simple because at its most basic, price is just moving through points of liquidity. That's all it is. It's searching out liquidity. It's not easy because you have to, number one, the most difficult part of it is the most uneasy part of it, I should say, is you've got to deal with your own emotions. And most people, let's be honest, most of us in life in general don't have a very good control over our emotions. We can just think of the last time we blew up at a spouse or one of our kids or something, And, so if we don't have it there, we can't expect to have it in trade. You can't be one way in your regular life and everyday life and expect to be opposite in your trading. So, when I talk, and I'm sure you probably do the same thing, when we're talking to traders, the idea is, listen, these things that I'm going to tell you are things that you have to implement throughout your life. You can't just do it in trading because it's not going to work. It will not happen. I guarantee it won't. Your brain cannot deal with with the two opposites there. It's going to always do the one that you do more often. And, the rest of our life is the bigger part of that.
100%.
But let me ask you, man, we're just about done here, but man, I've loved this. This has been so great. I really appreciate you joining me, man. We have to do this again.
Absolutely.
Of course. But let me see here. So you've already talked, you've made some big talks and big ideas about Bitcoin. About alts, man. Is there anything in particular that you're seeing that you're really excited about? Or is it just alts in general?
Alts in general, but I actually, on our live show today, and it's going to be going out as a video tomorrow morning, I gave a list of 5 coins that I still think if you bought right now, you could still 10x your money by this time next year. And those coins would be, I'll list them, and then you guys go watch the video on my channel so you can get the details and what you need. It's going to be Chainlink. I think it will more than 10x. Sui, Jasmy, Render, and what was my other one? Let me look at Caspa. Yeah, so Link, Sui, Render, Caspa, and Jasmy. All these coins, not all of them are going to crazy go over 10x, but a lot of people are still asking, is there a 20x out there? 2 of these on this chart, you have to watch my video to find out which 2. 2 of these I still think have 20x's left in them. But there's not a lot of 10x plays left in trusted positions. There's a lot of small caps, risky plays that still will 10x from here, but it's hard to choose which ones. If we're looking at respectable high-end projects, there's only a handful that are going to 10x from here. And I'm not saying these are the only 5, but these are 5 that I've identified and I've done some analysis on, that if they do what they should do over the next year, they should 10x your investment today.
That's fantastic. And what's the channel, man? You're telling them they got to see your channel. What's your channel? Make it easy for them.
Go check out Investing Broz. You guys will see us on YouTube, on X. I'm Tim Warren. Go follow me over on X as well. I put out a lot of thoughts every day over on that channel. But yeah, on YouTube, just go look up Investing Broz. And you'll find me and my team.
Let's let them know it's with a Z there.
With a Z, yeah. Investing Broz. Yeah, Z.
Awesome. Well, I'll be adding, I'll add your channel under here, and I'll add your yours and Taylor's ats for X there as well. So that way people can jump in there and follow y'all and whatever. But yeah, man, really enjoyed this. As always, we definitely, you and I, man, we stay so busy. It makes it hard to kind of get together, but I think we need to make a little commitment here into the next year to maybe kind of, make a little bit more time.
There we go. I would love it.
All right, man. Well, listen, loved having you here. Again, guys, you can check under the video here. I'll drop his at and Taylor's app, the other Investing Bro there, as well as their YouTube channel. So that's where you guys can just click on that link. I'll drop this video tonight, and then that way they're primed for tomorrow, and they can go in there and watch that. Anything else you want to say before we're gone here, man? That's
going to wrap it up here. It's been a pleasure to be here with you, Chris. Can't wait to come back on again soon.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And we will definitely do this again. As always, for everybody listening, remember that the only thing you control in trading is how much you lose. That's it. No matter how good you feel about a trade, no matter how good you feel about a setup, no matter how good you've gotten 5 in a row right, and man, you're riding that train. Don't let it cloud your thoughts. The only thing you control is how much you lose. So keep working on that risk management. I'm going to tell you right now, 30 years doing this, I still work on it every week. And here's why. Because every little micro bit better that I can get at my risk management is going to exponentially increase my returns over the next decades as I continue to do this. So take that for what it's worth. But no, you know what? Don't just take it. Listen and do it. All right. Tim, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you joining in. And we will definitely be doing this again. All right.
All right. See you next time.
All right. Everybody else, take care. We'll see y'all later.